I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you. Those words of Jesus come from John's Gospel, and they're part of the Gospel text for this Sunday. I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you. The fact that Jesus is speaking these words at all tells us that he knows that his disciples are going to feel orphaned at some time. He's preparing them ahead of time, reassuring them, reassuring us that despite how they will feel or how things might seem, well, as he says later in John's Gospel, I will see you again and your hearts will rejoice. During the past 2 months, I've heard from people across the board regarding their own spiritual lives and their faith during these very trying times. Some have found it a time of spiritual deepening and increase of their sense of God's presence and action in their lives. And others, on the other hand, have found it much more spiritually challenging, finding it difficult to pray, feeling more distant from God, feeling perhaps orphaned, to use Jesus' word. I think that those of us feeling that way really need to hang on to his words. I will not leave you orphaned. But even more, we need to hang on to the fact that he knew that we might feel this way. Our God joined us in our human condition, and so even Jesus knows that we can and do at times feel distant from God. The passage in Sunday's Gospel ends with Jesus saying, "Whoever loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and reveal myself to him." He will reveal himself to whoever loves him. And who loves him? Well, just before that, he says, "Whoever has my commandments and shares them and observes them is the one who loves me." So that means that encountering Jesus is about keeping his commands. But remember, this is John's Gospel. And in John's Gospel, he really gives only one command. Love one another as I have loved you. We look for Jesus by looking for love, by looking at those in our world who are responding to our current crisis with acts of love, by looking to those in our own lives, sometimes even strangers who've done even the simplest acts of love for us. And we look at our lives to ask ourselves, even now, even in our distance and perhaps isolation, what does love ask of me today? Because there's never a time when we cannot somehow, somewhere, in some way, even if in the simplest of ways, reach out or respond to another person in love. That's where Jesus is. That's where Jesus will be found, even if it doesn't always feel that way.